Hello, and welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at ReCappin Podcast.
Also, rate, review, and subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We want to hear your thoughts on the movies and shows we review.
Leave us a comment on Apple Podcasts or our YouTube channel, and we will read them during the show.
Or reach out to us on social media. We love talking all things entertainment and pop culture with you.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you. Ashley.
Hello, darling. How are you?
I am beyond excited. We have another In Conversation.
Amazing.
It's been a while.
It has. It's been too long. I'm glad to be back talking with some industry insiders, as you always say.
Absolutely. And we have the privilege of having Nicole Welch, a production manager, with us today. We always talk about our zodiac signs, and I'm a Cancer, so I can either be really moody or really excited. And so right now I'm like bubbling over. Nicole and I went to high school together, and she has since went on. We're both alum of Central Michigan University, and she has been working as a phenomenal freelance production manager. So Nicole, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Please walk us and our listeners through the highlights of your journey thus far, from being a drum major in Southfield Lathrop's marching band to a thriving production manager in Hollywood.
Okay. I'm gonna try to do it like it's a lie, y'all. It's a lie. It's a journey. Okay. So from Southfield Lathrop, being a drum major, that was an amazing. Let me tell you something, Delora. At Lathrop, I hated going to school beyond band and art classes. I hated it, and science. I did enjoy science.
We had a phenomenal fine arts program at our school.
We did. Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like it was one of the best for sure in the state. I mean, our band itself would go on to continue playing like at the White House, at Carnegie Hall, all those kinds of places. So from Southfield Lathrop, where I honestly did not know if I was going to graduate high school, I went on to Central Michigan University. I did not continue in the band, but I grew up in a household where my mother, she was on radio and TV for well over 25 years in the city of Detroit. And I would go to work with her, those kinds of things. There were people in school who would be like, oh, your mom is like the Detroit Oprah. And I'm like, okay, y'all are doing the most. But when I would go to her television set, she had a TV show that came on once a week on Wednesdays. I would sit in the production room with her producer, who was in there like cueing all the cameras and all that kind of stuff, writing the story and scripts and those kinds of things. And I just became fascinated with that. And from there, once I got to Central Michigan University, I made the decision to join the radio program, as well as start working on their News Central show that came on. I want to say it came on every day of the week, but they would have like news anchors and reporters, that kind of stuff in the local area. And I ended up auditioning to I wanted to just be like an entertainment reporter. I just wanted to focus on music and just like fun things in the industry versus like the sadder things in the news. But when I did that audition, the teacher who was over it was actually like, would you want to try out to be the news anchor or one of the news anchors? And I was like, okay, fine, I'll give it a try, like whatever. I ended up becoming a news anchor on News Central 25 or 35, something like that, News Central. And that continued on throughout the rest of my time at Central Michigan. I also got an internship at an NBC affiliate in Flint, which continued to help me hone being a news reporter and a news anchor, which was my focus then. But it was also in that internship where I learned local news wasn't for me. Local news wasn't for me. It was too sad. The stories they had me covering, I was just like, I can't go home thinking about these types of stories. It was about an aunt and a child, and the child is no longer alive because of this person.
My.
And that was the last story that I was sitting in the room when the jury and the judge were trying to make a decision on like what was going to happen to this person, while the family is sitting there as well, crying because this person is now going to prison or whatever is about to happen. But also this child is now gone as well. And I was like, I can't carry these heavy things coming home. So from there, I graduated from Central. My mom had a friend who was building a community affairs show in the city of Detroit. It was called Inside the City TV, and they were looking for a female host. And I was like, okay, this is a little more up my alley. I'll give it a try. They're just trying to interview like local people or like artists if they come to town, that kind of thing. And my main goal at that time, I had a big fascination with Monica, the singer.
Yes.
Dearly. Big fascination with her. And I wanted to interview her. And I was like, okay, let's do it. I want to give it a try. And I really want to interview Monica. I would say maybe about 3 or 4 months into working with them and being their female, like on camera host, I got that interview. Out of tears, prayers,
manifestation.
Yeah, I got that interview and it went so well. She was amazing to work with. And that bug just kind of continued to stay with me with working in the industry. I then started going to Specs Howard in Michigan. It was a trade school that was, it was a trade school that only focused on radio and TV. At Central, I graduated with a degree in cinematic arts. And I did have the experience of news, but they didn't really do things that were more like film focused. And so at Specs Howard, which was only an 8-month program, and I'm so glad I did it. I am so glad I did it. I'm grateful for my experience at Central. It helped me in some facets. But Specs Howard, within the first week, you were already doing things on the radio. You were already cutting things. You were already doing things like in the film studio, picking up the cameras. Like you were already getting that hands-on experience. And so I did that 8-month program at Specs Howard. And after I finished it, I got an internship at BET. And I was offered that internship in New York. At the same time, I was offered a position to be like a host of, or not a host, but you know, some companies have people who do a video and it's saying like, oh, there's safety things and all that kind of stuff. And they were like, either I can get that paid position that had all of the benefits and everything you could want, or I could go to this unpaid internship in New York where I knew no one, where I had no money beyond working. Unpaid.
That's a big caveat in that.
Yep. No house, didn't know anyone, had only been to New York to see a play once and then came back in like 24 hours. And both of my brothers were like, go to New York, do it. You will figure it out. And if not, you can always come back home. So I took that leap. I went to New York. I think I had maybe like $400 or $500. And my brother was there at the time, literally for only 24 hours. He was like, you could stay on my friend's couch, just pay him like $400 a month. So there goes I got $100 now. So just stay on his couch. You'll work it out. My brother was working on a show called Jerseylicious at the time. They were wrapping that show up and he was working in the art department. And he was like, come and let me introduce you to a couple of my producers and be a PA, a production assistant for us, and help us just like clean up the set. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. In doing that, I met one of the producers and she was like, I'm about to start on a new show. My brother was leaving literally the next day. And she was like, I'm starting a new show, would love to bring you onto it as an assistant, which I was like, okay, well, let me see if BAT can push my internship a little bit so I can do this job. So I ended up doing that job. I forgot the name of it. Was like a modeling show that actually started doing well. It was for the Eat Network. But that was my first like production assistant job, my first introduction to what it was like to work on a set. And I fell in love with it. I mean, I learned a lot about the egos and all that kind of stuff. The egos. All that kind of stuff.
I can only imagine.
But yeah. But from there, I finally got the internship started. I'm not even going to lie to y'all. I don't know if this person is still working at BET today, but she forgot I was coming. So I was just sitting in their lobby for about 4 or 5 hours. Yeah. But it was okay. Once I got in there, finished that job, once I got into the internship, and also getting that job helped me get more money so that I could stay and fund myself sleeping on this person's couch where the plastic was sticking to the side. Plastic and the leather sticking to the side of my face. So I did the internship at BET where I did like behind the scenes things for like 106 and Park and for their digital content when digital content was starting to get more popular.
Was Bow Wow hosting at that point?
Bow Wow was not hosting at that point.
Was it Terrence?
It was still Terrence
and Roxy.
Yep. Yep. And I remember when they were going to change it from Terrence and Roxy to, I feel like there was a competition that was going on, because I remember there was someone from Detroit that used to work on the radio, and she was one of the people.
It may have been.
Yeah.
It's been so long, but it was such a staple.
I know. Yeah, it's
that we used to watch. So
exactly. And I was so grateful to work in the behind the scenes versus actually working on 106 and Park, because I could move around a little bit more. I could function a little bit more just within the studio and everything. But my time at BET was cool. It was interesting. It was fun. I learned a lot, met a lot of people, got to interview Monica 2 more times. So my
Wonderful.
that was
so y'all besties at this
point. What do I do? Exactly. I was like, what do I even do anymore? So from there, I left that internship and started working on more reality shows as a production assistant. I did like Lala's Full Court Life. I did a show called Starter Wives. In those shows, I kind of learned I did not want to do the relationship type of reality shows. It's a lot. It's drama.
Because you're managing the personalities of all the individuals who are showing up in their various states.
Well, you are. And in those moments, I was a production assistant, which I feel like everyone in the industry definitely will start as a production assistant. And I feel like that's always going to be a position that anyone can always do, because that is the best way to get to meet people. And you get to be a part of each and every single piece of the production that is coming together. So you're being able to be around the producers, the director, you're around post, you're around the camera team, the lighting team, like all that kind of stuff. You're learning so many different facets of the industry versus just sticking with one thing. From there, I got to this show called, I was working under a production manager that got a job for a show called Hotel Impossible. And that's kind of where my career just took off. She brought me on as an associate producer / coordinator.
Is that like on A&E, I believe?
It was on the Travel Channel. Yeah. So actually, she brought me on as a PA one time. And from there, they hired me as an associate producer / coordinator, which then turned to just coordinator. And I did that show for about 5 or 6 seasons, where I honed my skills in production management, which is what I fell in love with. That was where I figured out, like, okay, in this industry, this is where I know I want to be. This is what I know I can do, and I do it well.
What do you think it is that continued to propel you from job to job? Was it the relationships you built that made people think, oh, she's a great hard worker? Like, what was it that you felt like was the secret sauce for you to continue to have momentum in your career as you were moving through these jobs?
I think it was just the thrill of it, to be honest with you. I really enjoy seeing the way something can start from nothing to just blossom into something just beautiful, and just seeing how everyone can come together to make one thing. Like it makes sense to me now why teachers would do assignments where everyone has to do something together, because in production, that is what you do every single day. There is not one production that you can do without the help of one other person doing something. The camera team can't film something if the production management team isn't getting the gear from a gear house, making sure that it's there, making sure that there's an assistant camera there to check that gear out to make sure that it's working. And the post team isn't going to be able to get all the footage without the camera team, shooting that, without having a media manager that's coming at lunchtime to come and get the media and get that media to the post team to make sure they can do it. And the producers and the network aren't going to be able to get all of this stuff without everything that's happening, before that. So I think it was just the thrill of all of that happening.
When you found yourself kind of in your first gig, your second gig, was it relationships with people who you were working on that continued to pull you with them to another project? Were you applying to these other projects? Kind of how was the process of moving from one production to another?
Was it the skills that you were
building
to build and strengthen? Because from my vantage point, have been a part of the marching band that you led. Yeah. Project management and leadership are some of the through lines I've seen based off of you know, what I saw and the responsibilities that you have in your role now. So
yeah, it was honestly, the relationships were very helpful. This industry is all, for the most part, it's all who you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so people opening up the doors because they saw how hard I was working and the joy that, I don't know, it brought joy to my heart. And I wanted to just continue doing it because it was fun. Like you're not on TV, but like you're making TV magic. Like you're really understanding what that phrase means with making TV magic. And it was just that excitement. So it was like, I'm going to do the best that I can to try to get more shows under my belt, to try to get more experience. And when I did start doing the production management route, like coordinating and all that kind of stuff, that got me even more excited because I love things, the way things come together, like as far as organization and seeing how beautiful it can be and trying to like anticipate the needs of people. And I believe that other people saw that in me, which is why they continue to bring me on to other things. And I think it helped that because my mom worked in radio and television, not getting like all, you know, fanatic when you're working with celebrities and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I think that was something that people saw too, because there are people on set who will just like freeze up. Like Beyonce walked by you, you're like, oh my God, it's Beyonce. Oh my God, let me try to it's like, no, like, look, she's a human being, you know?
Very much so. However, I've only been
with Beyonce, I think.
I've been starstruck once in my life, and I didn't know what it was until it happened. I met forever First Lady Michelle Obama.
Oh, yeah.
We made eye contact, and everything that I thought I was going to say wiped clean from my mind.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, I feel like there's still the exceptions. I feel like I'm trying to move in that direction though. Like I did a film festival and I didn't get as starstruck as I thought I was going to amongst these huge, the Tarajis, the Morris Chestnuts, these people that I normally would have been freaking out, I feel like at one point about, and was able to still navigate and work through it. So hopefully I'm moving in that direction, Nicole, but Beyonce would still get me, I think. I think Beyonce would still be a moment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's still people who would be like, I just got to have my little fangirl and then I can go on about my business. But what I love is it kind of sounds like you were able to navigate to a place where your passion kind of met purpose, right? Because you were going through all these different projects and really discovering what it was you loved about the industry. And then because of that, those doors, you know, continue to open for you because now you're living in that purpose.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And it's interesting because a lot of people, like I have friends now who are still, you know, looking for jobs all the time, that kind of thing. And I've gotten to a point where, I mean, honestly, I was looking at my resume the other day and I was like, I have not stopped working since 2015. Since Hotel Impossible, I have every month, and as a freelancer, like that's wild. But like every month, so almost 10 years I've been working in this industry, because I definitely started in 2013. To know that I've just had consistent work is just, it's wild. It's tiring because that also means I really haven't had any kind of breaks. But it's wild to me, but I've enjoyed it. Like through the ups and downs, because it's a lot of ups and downs. It's a lot of tears. It's a lot of long hours, especially working in production management, where you're expected to be available 24/7. Like, even though like right now I just left my shoot. Yeah, well, not left my shoot. I'm still here. It's supposed to be a dark day for us, but it's a dark day for the camera team and audio. And some of the producers have left, but me and my coordinator, we're still working today. I have a crew out right now, returning gear, returning vehicles. So I don't really get those dark days. And you're also expected in that to work 7 days a week, you know, and that it's like, all right, so now we'll get to this a little bit later. But
well, I was going to say, in those cases, that's when you better have a passion for it, right? Because those will be the times that test you of like, am I sure with this level of commitment? Am I sure?
You got to learn to set the boundaries and just, and it comes a lot, especially when you're traveling. It's a lot and it's tiresome. But to kind of wrap up my journey, so after Hotel Impossible, once I decided to make that move from New York to Los Angeles, they tried to keep me on and do it remotely. It worked for a little bit, but then I was like, no, I want to do something else. I continued to coordinate and find jobs in LA through networking from people in New York. A lot of it was reality TV. Then I randomly did a job for this company called the ATS team, which is one of my favorite places to have ever worked. And it was to see a different side of the production industry. It was a company that fabricated and designed obstacles for all, basically, the reality competition shows. And that totally changed my life. And it was more managing shows from the aspect of the art department, so to say. It were opened up doors for me to meet people like executives from big production companies that do the shows like Holy Moly, who do the shows like American Ninja Warrior, like all that kind of stuff, but also be able to meet the people who are in the wood shop, in the metal shop, doing all these things, the people who are behind their computers, the engineers, all that kind of stuff, creating these things, testing them out. It was a fascinating thing to do. From there, I went on to documentary work, which I also love documentary. It's probably my favorite to do, but I love documentary work. Those are also very hard to do sometimes, depending on what the content of the one I did for CNN. It was called The People v. the Klan. So sometimes when you film stuff though too, they don't name it what it's going to be named.
Is it because the name isn't available yet, or?
I think it's more of creative. Like they just haven't figured out what the name. Some stuff they have the name, but I think it was more of a creative thing. Like we're not really sold on this being the name of the show or that kind of thing. But it ended up becoming called The People versus the Klan. And it was about a young man who was, I want to say it was the last recorded lynching that had happened in the country. And it was in 1985. It was in 1980s, maybe 1989. But he was, I want to say like 17, 18, 19, in that area, in his late teens. He was walking down the street. His name was Michael McDonald. And two Klansmen pulled over, asked him some questions, and then killed him, lynched him, and left him hanging on a tree. And to have to go down to Alabama and talk to some of these people who were a part of the lynching, who were not locked up, to actually have to sit there and look in their faces, that kind of thing. That was hard to hear stories of people who were lynched themselves or attempted lynchings, but the rope ended up slipping. It was hard. And that documentary also took place. We started that in 2020. We started that documentary. We started filming, I want to say about 2 weeks before the world shut down.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So that was we were in Alabama. It was hard. Like there was a moment when my coordinator was in a van, because a lot of times we spend, especially on traveling shows, we're in vehicles just trying to be outside of the way. And a white woman pulled up next to her. And mind you, my coordinator is white, blonde, blue-eyed person. This white woman pulls up next to her, and she was like, "Oh, well, what are you all doing?" She's like, "We're filming." My coordinator says, "We're filming something." And the lady is like, "Okay, well, I used to live in California, and that was the most Black people I had seen. And now I'm seeing all it," because we made sure we had a diverse crew as well. But she was like, "It's the most Black people I've seen in a long time. It'd be nice, like, for them to move on and just like get out of here."
I'm shocked she said Black.
I'm shocked too.
I was waiting on you to throw out some other verbiage.
And you know what? I wasn't in the car with my coordinator because she definitely could have said something else. But in the way,
that's true. Talking to another white woman,
exactly,
she could have easily.
Exactly. Wow. And I've had moments where people have like called me colored, like all that kind of stuff in different cities. A lot of my shows that I've worked on and a lot of projects that I've worked on, they have me traveling all over, especially all over this country. And thankfully, there have been multiple times where I haven't had to hear it like to my face, but I work and have relationships with people where they're honest with me. And I don't care what their background is. And I've been on set where one of my media managers came up to me and he was like, "I don't want to say this to you, but one of the cast members' grandmothers was like, 'Oh my God, I'm just looking for that sweet colored girl.' Da, 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 da." And I'm like, I'm the only Black person on set a lot of times. So it was just like, well, we know who she's talking about. Or been out shopping in like Kentucky and stuff with some of my crew members. And I'll never forget, I was at Home Depot and I was looking for something with my assistant camera. And I'm glad that he came with me. to be honest with you, because I did not feel comfortable being where I was. And he heard some guys walking by us saying something about this nigger woman that's here. And my assistant camera got so frustrated with it. He was like ready to fight these people. And I was like, let's not let them just do their thing. Let's get what we need to get.
Appreciate the rage, out of here. I don't want to bail you out.
Because at the end of the day, too, that's why usually we do the check around to see if there are other Black people, because if something pops off, who's going to help me? So it may be me and you, but we're not going to be able to take on any of the folks that may be in this store who want to start something. So it's a safety issue that we always have to evaluate and be mindful of.
Exactly.
But you stay safe out here, Nicole. These are additional challenges that obviously we would face in these moments.
Got some mace.
Yeah. Yeah. Do I have mace? I don't. I don't.
I send you a care package for safety.
When I'm on set, I try not to, like, a lot of people will go out and explore cities and that kind of stuff. If I'm in a city like Chicago or like Atlanta or places where I know people, then I'll be like, yeah, let me go meet up with someone, have dinner, that kind of thing. But if I'm in like a small city or something like that, I'm like, thankfully, like Postmates and stuff exists now. So if it's not something close to me where I can just go and get something, I'm gonna just order it. Hopefully the hotel.
It's so funny that you say that, because like I'm thinking like, well, your name is Nicole, whereas for me, I'm like, I'll put in D or something. Like if I'm in an environment where I don't want them to be like, oh, this name.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But it's like, this is what Black people deal with in this country.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're always gaslit like, oh, no. I was like, do you know your cousins? Like,
no. Listen, there's still parts of Florida that are near me that I don't ride through and I don't go through. Yeah. I just went to a baby shower. This is a side note. Went to a baby shower last weekend, and it was one of my friends who lives out rural, right? So I'm rolling through cornfields. When I get to her house, I was like, where did you have me? Like, I am Black. I do not roll through cornfields and all this shit in Florida. Are you crazy? Like, y'all try to, okay?
No, thank you. No, thank you.
I don't trust this.
That's funny that you say that. My girlfriend and I her best friend got married in Northern California, and we drove up there, and we're passing like all the cornfields, cotton fields, like all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, I don't know if this is the place.
This is not for me.
Even if she married, her best friend is from Nigeria, but she married a white man that was from the area that they were in. And even being in the home of them, because they got married in the backyard, in his parents' backyard, like walking up to the front door, they had like the police flag on there.
Oh,
like,
no.
I was just like,
no,
I don't know.
No. I'm like,
I heard somebody called somebody a nigger, and I was just like, we need to.
Yeah, because I'd be like, y'all know that there's documentaries about this. Okay, there are documentaries about this very situation.
Yeah,
I'm good.
It does, and I think the one about the Klan really. So even though we shut down, because the world shut down, we picked that project back up within about 3 months. And instead of just being on the ground, I had to do it all remotely and through Zoom. So I had a crew in Chicago. I had a crew in the East Coast that would just take care of like East Coast states and travel up and down, and a crew in Alabama. And I would have to sit and watch these interviews that we continue. I mean, we continued on, but I have to sit there through Zoom and continue to watch the interviews, make sure everything got set up. And it was just like, and to know that had happened in the 80s. Like, I was born in 85.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
That could have easily been one of my brothers.
Right.
Or cousins. And to know as well, like everything that was going on in the world during that time with the George Floyds.
Right.
Like all of that, the Breonna Taylor, like that was a hard one to do. That was a hard one to do, especially during that time too.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that story and for sharing your journey with us. I wanted to move the conversation forward a little bit to the production company that you've founded, Size from Production Management. I love this name. So tell us a bit about it and what the transition has been like into founding your own business.
Yeah. So Size from Production Management is fairly new. And my main focus on it right now is consulting and working with like independent projects and obviously like bigger projects on, whatever it is they need production management wise, how I can help them, whether it's through budgeting, providing services for production management. I'm trying to work towards rentals, because that's something that I feel like is a need in our area. Like there are big conglomerates that have it, but when you go to small cities, it's a lot harder to find those things. And I'm working of being able to create like the needed, I won't say kits, is what I'll call it, for remote production. Because a lot of money, I feel like personally, is wasted when you're doing remote productions. Like I'm here right now, and in production management, anytime you go to a new city, you're basically starting up a business. You're starting it up and shutting it down within a week. You're hiring people, you're getting crew, you're getting gear, you're getting like all the logistics, the locations, your hotels, vehicles, all that kind of stuff. And so everything I can do to make a complete production management remote kit that can be shipped somewhere, because when you leave a location, either stuff is going to get thrown out or left. Maybe a production assistant might take it. I try to do my best when working with budgets to return things when I can, so I can try to get that money back and save the production some money. But I want to get to a point of being able to send those things out and getting them back, and people just like renting them and renting vehicles from me, because it's a need in this industry. But yeah, right now the focus is consulting, production management for like independent projects and bigger projects as they come along, like helping get a crew up for someone so I can do the work for them and my team can do the work for them. To make
that's awesome. That's awesome. Love to hear that. So now you're taking your years of expertise and moving into consulting, which I always say, that's my future. I hope. I just want to be a consultant, baby. Setting my own hours.
Place to be for sure.
Yeah, I love it. I love what I do.
It's quite impressive, because I am a supply chain management professional. So the logistics of what you have to do is like mind blowing. The fact that you do it in such a short period of time, you know, like concentrated timeline is just completely fascinating to me, in addition to the budget work and the hiring. And so you're like a walking business, you know, CEO based off of your project at that time. Seriously, those are some badass skills.
It's a lot to do, and it's hard when people ask me like, okay, well, what do you do? What does a production manager do? And I'm like, it's so many different facets and so many different hats that you have. I
feel like manager isn't even good enough. Like it doesn't carry the weight.
Production wizard. That should be the new name. Production wizard.
Yeah. And I don't want to say a production can't happen without your production management team, but I mean, essentially the production management team is the liaison between everyone, and everyone is coming to you for their every need. So if you don't have a production management team, production manager, coordinator, something, it's going to be a lot harder to get done what you need to get done, because they take all of that away. Like they anticipate your every need to make sure things run as smoothly as possible.
Anyone who wants to utilize those services, how should they get in contact with you?
So I'm working on launching my website. If it's not going to be launched next week, it'll be the week prior, but they can reach me through, at least right now, through Instagram at Size From Production Management, or through my email at sizefromproductionmanagement@gmail.com.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So you've answered this question. Do you prefer competition shows versus documentary format? But I'm going to go ahead and ask you, have you considered movies, films?
I've thought about scripted. I have thought about scripted. I don't know. I feel like I've done it. I did one movie once. And for me, I'm so used to the run and gun of like a reality or even a documentary from time to time. So I don't want to say I got bored, but I'm just so used to being like, okay, what's needed? Whereas when I was working on that movie, I was just like, okay, I'm here and I want to be able to help. But there are some things like I can't even touch. When I'm working on a reality show or something, it's more everyone's kind of helping out. You know?
So it's the pacing. Is it the pacing a bit and like the schedule?
Mm-hmm. I like the fast pace, and maybe it's just because I'm used to it. But I like that fast pace. Like, all right, it makes me think on my feet. Let me get it done real quick, like that kind of thing.
So Ashley and I love a good fantasy sci-fi moment every once in a while. And I'm just thinking like, oh, what does a production manager have to do on a set of like Hunger Games or Star Wars or something? Or even the Little Mermaid, that would have to be really wet, always be near a pool or a beach somewhere.
Yeah, you got to get the pool. You got to make sure there's lifeguards that are there, the medics that are there. I don't know how deep the pool would have to be, but make sure it's all sealed up and all that kind of stuff. You have to make sure you have, if it's not a studio that already has the pool, you have to get a company like the ATS team to create that pool for them, and test it out, all that kind of stuff. Do
you call Tyler Perry Studios?
You said, do I call? He might have a pool.
I just know Wakanda Forever. They called him up. Was filmed on Tyler Perry's studio, so I'm just throwing that out there.
In this case, the good thing about Disney is you got the budget, so because I'm sure budgets are a factor for everything you do, and some of the things it's like, hey, we have to make what we have work. So at least with probably some of the bigger budgets and bigger projects, it's like, okay, well, at least I know I have the funding.
You would think. The budget.
Well, tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me.
You'll never have enough. I feel like you'll never have enough budget. You'll never have enough budget. And depending on the project, I mean, the camera department is always going to want more. The lighting department is always going to want more, because they're like, you know what? I want to make this the best for you. And I need to use these specific things to make it the best for you. And it's like, well, that specific thing is not in our budget. And that's where like the production management team and the line producer, and some producers just come in and they try to negotiate and figure out how can we make it work. And if it does have to happen through that, you go back to the network and be like, look, we want to make this happen for you, and we want you to be happy. We want to make sure our client is happy. This is what we need to do. We need y'all to see if you can slide some more dollars.
when you're spending, how much did they spend on last Fast and the Furious? Like $300 million or something.
That's wild.
Yeah, I was like, wild. So where does all that money go?
All that money go?
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of it goes to the set design. A lot of it goes to your crew, because depending, I don't know how much crew they had on there, but I mean, everybody's got to get paid. Everyone's got to get paid. And you have crew that are making upwards to like $800, $1,200, $1,500, $2,000 a day.
And they probably did a lot of like CGI work on that one too.
Everything. You got the post department, everything.
But that's good to know.
Hair and makeup, catering, getting the food itself, paying the caterer.
Give me some good catering, please.
It is. Oh yes. Oh my God, don't have bad catering. You go ahead and hear it.
But I just say that because I'm just thinking, like, I think as the public, like, we'll hear these large figures of budgets, and obviously some of that goes to salary in terms of even the superstars who are on the project. But it's just like, where does all that rest of that money go?
It's a lot. I feel like a lot of it is people. It's people.
Yeah, the people.
The people.
One last question. Who do you report up to? The director, other producers, executive producers?
So my immediate boss is called a line producer. They're the ones who, well, if there's a line producer on the project. If there's not a line producer on the project, then the production manager is essentially like the line producer, and working on the budget with one of the producers or executive producers. So like on the project I'm on right now, I have a line producer, and then I have 2 executive producers that I work under. So that's kind of the line there. Above line producer, at least in my world, in production management world, is like the executive vice president, like that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
That's basically the road for me. If I continue on in production management world, it would be like line producer, and then going into like VP executive role.
Cool. So of the projects you've worked on to date, such as Being Mary Tyler Moore, House of Hammer, and you already mentioned Holy Moly, is there a favorite or an experience that sticks out for you?
I really enjoyed Holy Moly. That was a hard project, but I did enjoy it. I think I enjoyed it more because prior to working Holy Moly as their production supervisor, I worked at the ATS team. So I did the production supervision for seasons 3 and 4. But for season 1, the production reached out to the ATS team to actually fabricate the obstacles and help them build the obstacles, that kind of thing. And so I was able to work from a side of seeing how things were built up to then maneuver to a side of seeing the production of it and how the production came together with the art department and all those other folks and the producers and casting and everything. And it was a lot of fun to watch people do these crazy obstacles and challenges, and it was fun. That was fun. I loved Holy Moly. Between Holy Moly and just ATS as a whole, I love the ATS team. That was such a fun place to work, to be able to be on the side of American Ninja Warrior, watching people flip through all of the obstacles and all that kind of stuff, and be able
to. Did you try it? Did you try the courses?
The only thing I tried was the warp wall. That was the only thing, because I did not trust myself enough to not hurt myself.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know I had my people there who were helping with like safety and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, no. I also ziplined off of a building in downtown LA. That was a lot of fun too.
Woo. Good for you, girl. How high up were you? I can't speak because I'm afraid of heights. So just saying it out loud. How high up were you?
I honestly do not know. It was very, very high. And every time I pass this building now, I'm like, okay, yep, I ziplined off of that. Fine. Off of that building. And it was literally just to test it out. It was before they actually brought on the people who were going to do the actual show. Did it, because we had to test things out, because they had to make sure they had the perfect weight and all of that kind of stuff.
Oh boy.
So, which is also scary, because it's like, well, what if something snapped? Well, that's on us to test it out. If it snaps, that's it. Like,
wow.
Oh my God, I'm learning something really new. That would have been somebody else's job. What you mean? Y'all want me to go up there? Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have to. We have people who are testers and all that kind of stuff. But the project manager, who I loved all those people. But he was like, hey, he went over walking like, hey, ATS, if you all want to get an opportunity to come and do this, come on.
Well, good for you, Nicole. New experiences, trying it out, knowing what the contestants are going to go through. Good for you.
That was interesting, but yeah, that was fun. That was
we kind of touched upon it a little bit, talking about your career goals, or at least the hierarchy of it. But I also want to know, what's one major lesson you've learned being a part of the industry?
Setting boundaries. You have to set boundaries. For so long, I did not, or I feel like I did not set my boundaries. And the older, and I think it also comes with like the older you get, and like, you know, you've been doing this for so long, you know how things typically go on set, because for the most part, set is going to continually be the same no matter where you go. But you have to learn to set boundaries, especially in production management, because people expect you to be available 24/7 at their every beck and call. I promise you, people traveling, and, you know, I hope this doesn't like come against me for anything, but like when people travel with productions, it almost feels like people forget how to travel. Like they know how to travel when they're with their family, but when it comes time to travel for a shoot, no, they don't. They forget everything. They're like, how do I get to the airport? When, like, what time do I need to be there? What do I need to do? Where am I going to go after this? Which, whatever, at the same time, those are things that we need to have ready for them. Like we need to anticipate, like, this is a question they're going to ask. They're going to ask me, where do I pick up my rental car? This is where you're going to have to go. You lay it all out. But the thing is, when you lay it all out in an email, they're not going to read it. They're going to be like, okay, this is what time my flight is, but texting me. Okay, where do I need to meet you here? Where do I need to meet you there? Who's going to do this for me? Who's going to do that for me? Can you make sure this is happening? Or they're going to message you at 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, I want to change my flight. Your flight is in like 4 hours and I'm sleeping. So, like,
wow.
It's a lot of that last minute stuff. And it's funny that you all asked that question, because yesterday, thinking about like the whole setting boundary things, I was on the production office, or my coordinator, I want to say, was saying that someone had texted him around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And he was like, yeah, my phone's always on. And people are always like, even if it's a lunch order, like we asked you for your lunch order like 12 hours ago. And you're texting, why are you texting me at 2-3 o'clock in the morning telling me what you want for lunch? Our call time is like 9. Like, come on, you don't have 3 o'clock in the morning. That's not necessary. That's not necessary. And I was like, well, you know what? I keep my phone on silent. I don't put it on do not disturb unless I absolutely have to, but I keep it on silent. period.
Yes.
Especially if I'm sleeping.
Yes.
Because I also get anxiety from my phone. It's continually going off. When you're on,
exactly.
going off, going off, going off. So
exactly.
continuing to hear that. And it's going off beyond just what people need on set. Because then like your family, your friends, they're trying to get a hold of you. And they're trying to see just how you're doing, that kind of thing. My parents learned a great lesson on what I do for work, because it's always hard to explain it. But when I was doing that documentary on the KKK, I ended up being at home because the world had shut down. So I came home to Michigan.
Yeah.
And when we came back up, I had to work out of the room that I grew up in. And I did that for another 3 months. And my dad would come home from work just like tapping on the, because I would be locked in the room the whole entire day, because you're not working less than 12 hours. And in production management, you're likely not going to be working less than maybe 15. And my dad would just like tap on the door and just be like, I just want to make sure you're okay. Or my mom would be like, I made you some food. I'm just going to slide it on your bed. Like, if you want to eat it, if you have time. If not, I totally understand. And we'll just close the door. I cry when that one was over. I cry when a lot of the shows are over, just because it takes up so much of my time. And trying to set boundaries and have kind of like work-life balance can be a little difficult. So I feel like setting boundaries is one of the biggest things that I've learned in working in this industry, because yes, I know I need to be available for people, but I also need to be available for myself.
Absolutely.
I need to be like, look, if it's not done right now, I can't help. I cannot help you between midnight and 5 a.m. Nothing is open, like none of that kind of stuff. No vendor is open and available right now. I can't.
Exactly.
It's only so much I can do once business is shut down for the day. If it's in that, like if it's something where I have to update a budget or something like that, maybe. But even then, like, how is that helping you at 3 o'clock in the morning? Because it damn sure ain't helping me.
This whole time you're talking, I'm just thinking about that episode of Atlanta where Donald Glover gets that text from his cousin saying, I want some chicken wings. And it was like 3 or 4 a.m. And it was like such a specific request. And he was like sick and he wasn't feeling good. And it was just this idea of like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I literally just laid my head down and this is the text you're sending me. That's just what I kept thinking about. So
all the time. Those are the kinds of messages. I will get those kinds of messages, or people will walk into the production office and be like, I want some lemon lime, I don't know, LaCroix, and just walk out and be like, okay. You gotta have it. You gotta have it for them. Or talent is like, I want a microwave in my room in an hour. All right, well, we're in the middle of the swamps. Let me figure out, what I can do and try to get it. You're basically in production management. It's like you're basically, I don't want to say like a mom, but basically like it's like your children are coming to you asking you for the things that they need because they feel like they can't get it. And to be honest, like as production management, we have our assistants that are able to go and get these things. Like if you're a camera operator or audio person, you're not able to leave set. You're there. You're holding your camera all day, watching the audio, monitoring all of that kind of stuff. So no, y'all can't leave. So we are going to do what we can to make sure everyone on set is, happy. Because if you have bad morale on set, like that, it's just, you don't want a toxic set because that just makes things worse.
Yeah, makes everybody miserable. This is a great segue though, because the next question was, what do you find most challenging in your career and what do you find most rewarding? So is it setting boundaries? Is that the most challenging, or is there something else you'd be like, actually?
Setting boundaries is challenging, and navigating egos.
Okay.
Navigating it, because it's a lot of personalities that you have to deal with.
I mean, requesting a microwave within an hour is like, it's like,
they got to heat up a burrito. Are you
trying to stroke your own ego at this point? At least give me the end of the day. And that too, right? So what's the point?
Some shows don't have catering. So like when I'm doing reality shows, they mostly don't have catering. We go and send our production assistants to go and get a bunch of craft service. So they go to different grocery stores and stuff. And you try to get to a point, especially if you're working with a crew that is like the same crew. So you're traveling. Right now I'm working with a crew. We all travel, except for our production assistants. And so we start to learn like what people like to eat, or you also have to learn like what are people's dietary restrictions. Does someone, are allergic to things like that kind of stuff. And so you try to have the things that people enjoy eating and can just snack on really quickly. And then you also have to focus on, like with these kinds of like traveling shows, you have to make sure you're getting the lunch orders and all that kind of stuff. So you're finding restaurants and those kinds of things. That microwave thing is when like someone like a host, for example, is trying to do something for their dietary needs. And hopefully they'll say that prior to being out in the field. Hopefully they'll give like a writer or something and say like, hey, this is what I need. And I'm going to need to warm something up. It can be a hassle to try to, we travel with 4 minivans to try to have space to hold for a microwave. And wherever we are and wherever we land, if this person is like, I need to warm up this, and trying to find somewhere to, hook up this microwave or something, like it could be a challenge, but you try to make sure everyone is happy.
Okay.
You want your shoot to go well.
And what about the most rewarding?
The most rewarding for me is seeing everything come together in the end, seeing, especially when it's like home makeover shows or something like that, seeing how we can help someone feel better, to bring joy into their life. When I was working on Hotel Impossible, we used to go into hotels, and usually mom and pop hotels. We wouldn't go into like big main type hotels, but we would go in there, renovate some space. We would go in there and help them with their finances and try to help them make more money as the years progressed on. Try to bring them, I don't know, we would try to like link them up with different things that would happen in the city. So like when people would come and stay at their hotel, they could maybe like do a water boat ride or something like that,
like experiences,
like different types of experience, and the joy that it would bring to people's faces, the people who own these locations and their families, just to be like, oh my God, like we don't have to close down. Like there is some possibility that we can remain doing what we're doing. And I don't know, just seeing that joy in people's faces, and also seeing like the joy in people's faces when they're talking about the types of shows that they like, to know that I made some type of impact in bringing joy to people's faces when the world shuts down and all you're able to do is watch television, and to try to escape in some way, to laugh at something on TV, to know that me and my team helped be able to do that. Like nobody would have been able to get through the pandemic without the work of television and entertainment professionals.
Absolutely.
And TV and like even down to news. Like that's how we got all the information. And y'all can't do that without the entertainment industry.
Not at all.
Absolutely.
I mean, we started our podcast in the middle of the pandemic.
Yes.
Exactly.
Because we were watching so much TV. We're like, you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
And for me, I realized like I started living through these moments and these characters. Somebody would tell me something about something that's going on in their life, and I'd be like, you know what? I was just watching a show on X, Y, and Z, like, because I wasn't getting out and having experiences, everything became, you know what I just saw? You know what just happened in this show? So it literally became like that lifeline to still feel like you're living life, like traveling. Like one of my favorite things I watched during the pandemic was the one movie I can't think of the name of right now, but the actress, I think she was either nominated or she won the Academy Award, but it was like she was out traveling in like an RV, and that just made my day, because
was it called like Nomad or something like that?
It was something similar, but she had like left her town, got this RV, was traveling, all this stuff, and it just made me feel like I was escaping, right? It made me feel like I was going out and traveling through America and still getting that level of escapism that I needed. So absolutely, me and Delora of anybody appreciate all the work that you guys did during the pandemic. Could not 1000%. Have lived without it.
Yeah, that was wild. It was wild to transition from being on set to doing things remotely. Like the TV industry had to make such a change to be able to film things during the pandemic, because we stopped down for a second, but we had to get things going back again, because a lot of the stuff that was being filmed then is like airing now,
Yeah, I experienced that on a small scale working in broadcast television at the time, and them trying to figure out how news anchors were going to report from their homes and all this stuff that had obviously never been done before.
Exactly.
So it was definitely an experience, but for you guys to do a whole like literally create content to that degree remotely is insane.
It was wild. Even trying to do location scouting.
Yeah.
I would have to hire a PA and be like, hey, here are some of the locations we want to look at. put me on Zoom, make sure the Wi-Fi is working, make sure there's parking, make sure there's places to eat around, all that kind of stuff. It was just like, it was wild. It was an experience. It was
life, just life.
It was exactly life. And
yeah. So speaking to the industry and the impact it has on everyday people like ourselves, the Writers Guild of America, as well as SAG, are on strike.
Yes, they are.
What are your thoughts on it? How are you impacted by it? We'd love to pick your brain on this.
Yeah. So because I work in reality, we're not unionized. And it puts me in a very difficult position, to be honest, because I support the strikes. I support them with all my heart.
Yes.
So the project I'm working on right now, and I won't name it, but the project I'm working on right now, like we have SAG hosts and like we're filming all week. And it was like, okay, we know that they're going to make a decision on whether or not they're going to continue with the strike or not. And so like yesterday we wake up and we're like, okay, so are we going to be able to shoot or are we not? And I'm going to support my host no matter what. And I know that had to be a hard decision for them as well. We did shoot, but I know when I get back to Los Angeles, I'm gonna be at their picket lines. The industry is really showing themselves right now.
Yes.
Executive wise, they are really showing themselves. And the comments that they're making and all that kind of stuff.
Like Bob Iger.
Oh my gosh.
Listen.
Yeah. It's really showing what this industry is like. Like we're all replaceable. We are all replaceable to them. And they are going to milk that as much as they can because they're like, you know what, if you're not going to do it, someone else will come and do it. And the fact that I don't think it was Bob who said it, but someone else who was just saying like, we'll just let the writers keep going until they need to,
right,
pay a bill and they really struggling.
Heartless.
That's really the way people are on these sets, saying that to people. It's like they don't care. It's like they don't care. I mean, in non-union, it's not affecting my work as far as like us having to stop down. I will say that. But I think personally it's kind of affecting my morale. I want everyone to get what they are worth and get valued. They're all needed. They're all needed. I'm ready to stop all my subscriptions down. I'm ready to. And I'm hoping that some type of agreement can come with everyone and this can stop down because people need to work. People need to work. And in a minute, y'all not like, we're not going to have nothing to watch on TV but reality shows, and everyone's not into reality.
You were talking about stopping your subscriptions. Are you meaning to the different streaming services? Do you feel like that's something that consumers could be, who are in solidarity with the strike, contributing, is to remove our dollars from the equation by no longer supporting these streamers?
I feel like that's something that could be helpful. And I think me even more so wanting to get down on picking lines is to be able to talk firsthand with the people who it's affecting like right immediately and see what their perspective is. Because someone else was asking me a question of like, well, what can people do who want to help support in some ways? And I don't have like those kinds of answers. And I want to, like, someone asked me as I was flying out, like, hey, I'm going to the picket lines tomorrow. Do you want to come with me? But I was like, I do, but unfortunately, I'm out of town and I can't. But as of right now, I feel like, stopping down subscriptions could help. But so many billions of people in the world, it's like, is that even going to make a dent? It's like the whole world, I feel like, would have to just be like, I'm done with that. It saddens me that this is happening because it is affecting like my friends and writers, actors, all of that. And I wish it did not have to come to what it has come to.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about self-care. Because we've talked about, not just the strike, but also the conditions you've had to work under in certain capacities with, the documentaries you've worked on, with you having to set your boundaries. So how do you maintain your mental and physical health in the midst of your work life?
I will say this every Sunday, and I tell this to every production that I work on. Every Sunday I play kickball. And that has been such
I love that.
It's amazing.
Help and release in my young age, I'll say.
Yes, your young age, absolutely.
In my big old age, that is something that really has helped me with self-care, and that helped me with setting boundaries because I fell in love with doing that so much. I started to tell productions like, okay, I'm down to do things, but no that, especially if we're filming in the city, like I'm not available on Sundays. I'm not available on Sundays. I'm not always going to be able to be there, which is also something that has helped me. I try not to do productions that are going to work on the weekends now. And I'm feel like I'm to a point in my career where I can be like, I mean, unless it has to happen, like whatever. But kickball, practicing on Wednesdays, trying to do things with my girlfriend, whether it's like going to amusement parks, like that kind of stuff, spending time with her family. Her friend, she's based out of California, like she's born and raised in California. So we spend time with her family. Just trying to go on trips when I can. And a lot of times it can only be a weekend thing. It's been hard for me to take long extended vacations. I'm a freelancer, so that's not always available. What else do I do for self-care?
Especially with the long hours. Like, how's your sleep?
Non-existent. Non-existent. I will say on this show, we've been able to kind of not condense our days, but we don't have to work as long, or I try to do what I can as far as like writing up the call sheets as early as I can to get them approved. So as soon as the day is over, I can just send them out. So learning to do that and to be able to get all the work that we need to get done. Again, it's always an anticipating what is needed for the next couple of days. The faster I can do that, the more free time, I guess you could say, that I'll have later in the day, like when I am on a shoot. Unless like it was a day like yesterday, it was our last day of shooting. We finished shooting around like 6:00, but then we still had to, because we travel. So we're traveling to another city. The team is, you have to wrap everything out. Like you got to close the business down. And so something like that, where I was able to maybe be available after 9 p.m. But I was still able to spend some time with some of the producers who were leaving. I have a membership at the Soho House, which is helpful for me because in LA, I can just go there if I just need to get some self-care and sit on the rooftop and just relax, even if it's for an hour, read a book, like that kind of thing. I'm able to do that. You're not really supposed to be on your phones and stuff when you're there. So my phone's on silent, do not disturb. Like, you got to shut the phone off sometimes. Other than that, I love sitting in my house. I watch TV with my girlfriend. To be honest with you, I know I work in the industry, but I don't know if it's just like triggering or trauma to watch some things. For the longest time, I did not watch TV. I didn't watch reality shows. I didn't, because it also, every time I watch something, I don't care if it's a movie, TV show, but a commercial, in my mind, I'm not watching what is on there. I'm thinking, what did it take to get this location? How many times did they have to shoot this? How many people were on set? Like, I'm thinking of all of this kind of stuff when I'm watching something, especially with reality shows. Those are really triggering for me. So it was hard for me to just sit and watch TV. But my girlfriend loves cinema and all that kind of stuff, loves Black cinema. And so she's always watching TV and all this kind of stuff. Right now, she's watching SWAT. And I'm just like, all right, let's just sit and watch SWAT. But it's relaxing because I am sitting there with her and I'll be able to talk about the things that I'm thinking of when it comes down to it. And she doesn't like get necessarily offended by it. But a lot of people, when I start talking about those kinds of like production related things and logistics and all that kind of stuff, they're like, you are ruining the show for me.
That's so funny.
Oh, that camera wasn't that focused. They need to change that lens. Like that.
It's like, but you can't take me out of work. This is what I do.
Exactly.
You remember Michael Estime?
Yes.
Yeah. He's my BFF, still my BFF today.
Oh my God. Yay.
So he's on TV doing meteorology, but he's the one that he's like, yeah, I can't watch shows when the voice isn't synced up appropriately. And he's like, oh yeah, that happens all the time. And I'm like, I'm like, what do you mean? I've never noticed that. And then as soon as he said it, I'm like, oh, this isn't synced. Oh my God.
That's hard. It's hard to watch shows that aren't oh my gosh, where it's not synced up. That's difficult. That is difficult. Yeah, it's a lot. I was watching commercials the other day, just commercials between a show. And I was just like, how can I do this? I need to turn the TV off because I'm starting to get frustrated with things. I'm starting to get frustrated.
I mean, it's good to have those outlets. Like, I love that you mentioned kickball as a great outlet and stress reliever, right? Because it's probably like harkens back to childhood a little bit. It gives you a great physical like outlet and release. And to your point, it also just establishes something that like, this is me time. This is my thing that I'm going to go spend time doing by myself.
Exactly.
It gives me that piece that I need. So I love that.
Yeah. And I've gotten to meet so many different people and from all different aspects of life versus just people who are in the industry, because a lot of the spaces I'm in is industry people.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, let me meet some lawyers. Let me meet some other real estate agents, like all that kind of stuff. Other than that, I didn't bring it this time, but I usually bring my Nintendo Switch with me, and I hook it up to the hotel television. So if I am stuck in my room, I can just like play Clue or play, Mario Kart or something like that.
No, we talk about a big entertainment industry, gaming.
Oh my gosh, gaming is huge.
The big,
gigantic. Gigantic.
Such a respect for the artists that do like gaming and like virtual reality. And I got an opportunity to be a previs coordinator for one of the first VR movies. It was one where you could like choose your journey. Really. It was for a company called Third Floor Inc. And it had some really big names behind it. It was pretty cool. I gained such respect for the artists that do, because it's something else where I walked into, like, I didn't even think about the things that go into make this kind of project, from drawing the characters to even just putting the little things in the background, like all the books and stuff that are behind you, Delora. Like, they have to physically, each and every single one of them, put that stuff in there for each and every frame. And it's just like, you don't think about those things when you're watching it.
Yep. The appreciation for the artistry of everything.
Exactly.
What goals do you have for your business in the future? Are you looking for accolades? Are you looking for more time off? Is there a production company that you currently look towards as the standard?
Honestly, my goal for my production company in the future is for it to kind of be like a side thing. I want to secure generational wealth for my family. And I love doing what I do in the industry, but I'm also ready to branch out into new facets of business. Yeah, that for me is my main career goal, like, as a whole. A lot of my friends talk to me about being an executive at a network.
Easy.
While still having like my business on the side. And it's something that I've been contemplating on doing.
And what I want to clarify, you hone all those skills to be an executive. Okay, that is what I'm saying. Like, oh, that's an easy step. Next step.
It is. But I'm also like, I've done this for a really, really long time and I've enjoyed it. But I'm also getting to a point where I'm kind of ready to retire from it. My body's tired. I want to be able to have more free time for myself. It's always going to be, I feel like it's always going to be a grind mentality, because I am a freelancer. And I know a lot of things, I have gotten to a point where I don't necessarily have to like go and look for work. Like, people will call me and I've been able to like turn down things. Someone reached out to me yesterday about something. They're like, hey, I saw your work. You were recommended by someone. Would love to work with you on this. But, I really have to take into consideration, like, when am I going to have that time for me? Mm-hmm. And so I want to see my business thrive, but I also want to see it be something that isn't necessarily in the forefront for me.
You're going to be a hands-off business owner where it is running itself.
Exactly.
Multiple streams of income.
Yes.
We get it.
Somebody. Come on. And I definitely want to do multiple streams that just aren't focused on the entertainment industry, because I don't want to be stuck in the one little bubble. I want to be able to be expansive. Yeah.
Diversify that portfolio.
Right. I see Issa Rae dreams and ambitions in this conversation. I just saw the video with the Barbie cast of them asking, so who amongst the cast owns a coffee shop? They were like, oh, I know this answer. It's Issa. I watched her masterclass. It's Issa.
Yes, Hilltop. Love Hilltop. Yeah.
So, absolutely.
You've been. Okay.
You got the 4 locations.
You gotta go. You gotta go and tell me about it.
Absolutely. They have tea, right? Because I'm not huge. I'll drink coffee for Issa, but I prefer tea.
I don't drink coffee either. So yeah, I'm like, give me a chai tea or just like a mint tea.
Give me a muffin. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had locks earlier this year, and there was a place that I would get my hair like maintained, and it actually was across the street from Hilltop. So I've been over there a couple of times.
Very nice. Very nice. What advice do you have for those who are listening and hope to follow your path?
Set boundaries early. PA like crazy. so that your face is out there, so that you're learning as much as you can. Even if you get to a point where you become a coordinator from PAing, especially like if your role is production management, if there's a time where you have some time between work, if you can find a PA gig for a couple of days, do it. Don't ever feel like you're in a position to never be a PA, because that is where you're going to learn the most in this industry. That is where you're going to be able to network the most in this industry, because you have access to so many different people. That's one of the biggest things, and setting boundaries and making sure you're able to focus on having a good work-life balance, because it will drive you crazy if you don't. And don't feel discouraged if projects aren't coming as quickly as you would like. Don't feel discouraged. That is the industry. That's the industry. So projects aren't going to come all the time, but don't feel discouraged by it, and just continue to press forward and move forward. And don't feel like you have to get, a lot of people are like, oh, I want to do this, but I don't want to work for this rate. And sometimes working for a lower rate on a project where someone is really passionate about it, and you can see that passion in it, can help propel you somewhere else. Not to say, do things for free, know your value for sure.
Yes.
But sometimes some projects, like if you see the passion in it and you believe in it, don't feel like you have to let it pass up.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom, for your experience. We definitely appreciate it, and definitely wishing you the best of luck in this journey that I feel like, this transition that you're about to go through to, living your best life and having more free time and flexibility.
Exactly. I want you on a beach somewhere very soon.
Girl, I want me on a beach too. I want me on a beach. Oh, and I did also want to say, Being Mary Tyler Moore, I know you had mentioned it, which was an awesome project to work on. I got to meet Felicia Rashad on that one.
Nice.
It was nominated for an Emmy. So I'm very proud of that. That was a goal of mine, was to get an Emmy. I know I can't get the Emmy, even though I'm a part of the Academy, because I'm a production manager, which is very unfortunate. But yeah, girl. But I am very happy to know that it has been nominated. We put a lot of hard work in that project.
Well, congratulations on the efforts. For sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
I didn't know that. I didn't realize or think about who got those actual statues.
Yeah, it's weird to me because I am a part of the Academy. Like, I was able to put votes in under my group, but to read and know like I'm not able to actually win it. They're like people who do the logistics or something like that. Is what I was reading. You can't win the Emmy.
Well, we know.
We know.
Exactly.
And maybe that's something else that they need to be changing, because still got work to do in many of these award shows.
It's a lot of work to do within this industry, to be honest. A lot of work and a lot of respect that needs to happen in this industry. So yeah, thank you all for having me. I really appreciate it. And I wish you all much, much success on your podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So far, it's been awesome. So looking forward to seeing how far this goes for you.
Thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you so much.